The Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 is a seriously disruptive phone. It offers specs that might cost you £300 in a Samsung handset, but only costs £125. That's without a contract, with no obligation beyond the phone being locked to Vodafone. There's the rub. If you don't mind being on Vodafone, this is the highest spec budget phone you can get without importing something from China. Vodafone can't be making much money off the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 directly, and reassurances you're getting good return on your money don't get much better than that. It makes the Motorola Moto G look overpriced. Vodafone Smart Ultra 6, Design. The Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 is probably the best value large screen phone around right now. But we're going to start with its weakest element, design. The Vodafone Smart Ultra 6's back is metallic plastic that couldn't even pass for metal at arm's length. And despite being a unibody design, there is a contour around the side mimicking where a backplate seam would lie. Normally that's what unibody phones do their best to avoid, seams. Then there's the volume buttons, which are just a slightly different color to the shell, but not enough to appear deliberate. And the one part that really does seem deliberate, the blue light-up soft keys, come across as a little juvenile. The Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 seems a design without all that much attention to detail, with external elements that simply fit the mission statement. Make sure it fits the budget. Sounds damning? Stick with us because this is probably the worst part of the phone. It's probably not a phone whose looks you'll ever be proud of, or something that'll make friends jealous unless they're bargain hunters. However, the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6's build quality is perfectly sound. It's plastic and fairly large, but doesn't flex or creak. You may not have owned a ZTE phone before, but it knows how to make the things. The top screen layer is toughened glass that feels just as smooth and strong as a phone twice the price. It does seem to take pressure a little less confidently than Gorilla Glass 3, but as yet we've not been able to find out the exact glass used. And while the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 is fairly large, it's not unduly chunky at 8.35 mm thick. Like all the best giant screen phones, it puts the power button right under your thumb, dropping it halfway down one side. The soft keys aren't a Nexus 6-like stretch to reach either. The Vodafone Smart Ultra may 6th be about as spiced up as an unseasoned block of tofu, but it certainly does work. And while we may have been a little mean about the phone's design, it's not offensive. Just quite bland. Vodafone Smart Ultra 6, Connectivity. One way to look at this is that the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 puts its budget elsewhere. For example, its connectivity and features are a league above what the price suggests. It has 4G, likely to be some buyers' first experience with super-fast mobile internet, and NFC. These are dead common nowadays, but help keep parity with more expensive phones. The really impressive stat, though, is its 16 GB storage. We'd expect a phone this price to have just 8 GB, even one with a smaller, lower-res screen. This should mean most people really don't have to worry about getting hold of a micro SD card, although there's a tray to accommodate one on the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6. There's no IR transmitter, but it's unrealistic to expect one at the price. Where other phones at the price use 720p panels, this one is 1080p, meaning there's no sense of sharpness compromise despite the display's large 5.5-inch size. It's big, it's sharp, and its colors are pretty good too. The best likely have better color calibration, but there's no obvious bias or cast, a fairly neutral white balance and natural-looking saturation. No oversaturation, and if there's any undersaturation it's not obvious. Vodafone Smart Ultra 6, Software. Seems ambitious. Spend a bit more time with the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 and you realize it's not ambition that has led to this phone, but pure pragmatism. The Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 runs a virtually untouched version of Android Lollipop, currently 5.0.2. Even the pre-installed wallpapers are the same default ones we saw in the Nexus 6. Of course, this creates less work for Vodafone, meaning it doesn't have a custom UI to constantly maintain and provide fixes for. Vodafone Smart Ultra 6, Performance. This sort of humble approach pays off, because aside from a few little glitchy moments, the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6's performance is very strong. During testing we did come across a few things that appear to be flat-out bugs. It took us a while just to get through the initial setup wizard. But we were using the phone before it was even fully announced for the UK, let alone released. There's no annoying consistent keyboard lag, no consistent long loading pauses and no endemic navigation lag. So while there are a few bugs left to squish, general performance is sound. Given the price, the hardware running the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 is quite fantastic too. It has the Snapdragon 615 processor and 2GB RAM. While the Snapdragon 615 is a mid-range processor, it might be more realistic to view it as a Snapdragon 410 upscaled to suit the greater needs of a 1080p, rather than 720p, phone. Camera. Over the last 6 months or so we've seen an explosion of 13-megapixel budget phones, and the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 sits among them. It's all because Sony came out with a new low-cost, high-resolution sensor and just about everyone seems to have jumped on the thing. This lacks manual focusing, but does give you control over white balance, exposure, and ISO, as well as giving you a grid and level guide. The Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 doesn't have an amazing camera, but it gets things about half right. Low light abilities are nothing special, though. Rather than using advanced processing to make your shots clearer, the phone will shoot as slow as 1/7 of a second, which is just about impossible to keep sharp while shooting handheld. Basic flashes rarely do photos many favors, but if you're shooting people it's best to turn the flash on here. For selfies, the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 has a 5-megapixel sensor and offers pretty good images. Indoors it'll compensate for middling lighting just fine, while holding onto color saturation. You don't get many bonus modes for selfies, but there is one that snaps as soon as it spots a smile. A spoonful of creepiness for you, there. Vodafone Smart Ultra 6, Battery Life. One worry of a cheaper phone with a very large screen is whether it'll foul up on battery life. However, the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 once again does perfectly well. It has a 3000 mAh battery that Vodafone claims will last for up to 2 days off a charge. You won't get this if you play games, stream video, and so on. However, it's achievable with lighter use. Should I buy the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6? Right now, as we first look at the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 in June 2015, it offers more for your money than just about any other branded phone in the world right now. Sure, fling your card details over to a Chinese importer and you might be able to get hold of something similar from a no-brand OEM or one on the cusp of recognition like Elephone. However, we'd much rather have something go wrong with the Vodafone Smart Ultra 6 than an import. Not that we think anything will, it may be dull, but it's not poorly made. There are only 4 issues. First, that bland factor will be off-putting for some. But is this grade of bargain worth sacrificing flashiness for? We think so. Next up there are the dual Vodafone issues. First, there's a fair bit of bloat that's kept right in your eyeline. But as it is nothing more than pre-installed apps, it has seemingly no performance impact. More importantly, Our sample is locked to Vodafone and it's sensible to assume yours will be too. If you can't get on with any of Vodafone's deals, the Ultra 6 is nothing more than a honey trap. Sneaky unlocking may be possible down the line, but we can't be 100% sure. Last up is something that comes with the territory. It's not too much of a porker among 5.5-inch phones, but make sure you're ready for a larger device. That may sound like quite the shopping list of issues, but to the right person they are minor, or even insignificant. And behind them is a phone of truly great value.